GCSE History Paper 3 is here, the final GCSE History paper. Now, in this video, I'm going to detail the best advice that I have for this paper. Now, this video is going to split kind of into 3 sections. So firstly, I'm going to give some general history advice for all exam boards. Then I'm going to give some specific advice for the EDEXCEL exam board. And then finally, I'll just do a tiny bit on Weimar Nazi Germany, which I did, which was my favorite history topic. So you can start, basically just drop off whenever you want, at what point the video becomes not relevant for you. So the first part of this video then, I'm going to say some of the best advice. You may have heard it before in some of the previous history videos, but it's just super important. History is a structure subject. Now what I mean by that is you just have to know the structure inside and out. It's not really like maths where, you know, there is a process for each question, but it's not like there's specific structures for specific questions. But for history, that is the case. So certain questions require certain structures. Now, this can be, for you, you might feel like, oh, there's so much I need to learn, but this is actually a very efficient way to get marks if you just learn the structures. So for example, in EDEXCEL history, there is about 12 marks of super easy marks that you get by just knowing the structure. It doesn't require any historical knowledge or any skill. And I'll go through that in the EDEXCEL section. But the point is, learning structure is critical and will really help you, because often in history, there's more easy questions than there might seem, like where you have to infer things, you know, often the 4 markers where you're using sources, for example. They're much easier than anything. It depends on your exam board, sure, but you have to learn the structure. Certain questions require a certain amount of paragraphs, certain style, and that's really critical. So if you don't know for your paper, then you absolutely need to know before you go into your exam, right? If you're watching this minutes before, then try and find a teacher, try and find someone to learn that. So that's the first thing, right? And I know I've said that before, it's just critical. You know, I really put time into learning the structure. It's not the bare minimum because lots of people don't do it, but it's really important, especially if you want to solidify that. So then going above that, it's obviously about the content, right? And what you want here is ideally some good facts, dates, key individuals, or key words, right? These are the kind of core, that's the own contextual knowledge part of history. Now, it's kind of a scale. The better knowledge you have, the better grade you're more likely to get. It's not as simple as that, right? You might have loads of knowledge, but you don't know how to structure, you get all the structure wrong, you're not focused on the question. That's not useful. If you have good targeted knowledge, that is useful. Examiners love when you use statistics, when you use key facts. All of that sort of stuff is great. So for example, Weimar Nazi Germany, knowing some specific facts about the Treaty of Versailles, that's super important. So for example, Germany's military was limited to 100,000 soldiers, right? That's important. So try and learn some facts. If you're thinking, oh, I don't know enough, then my main advice is get up AI, ask it to give you 10 really important facts, learn them. The more you learn, the better. It doesn't, you know, at this stage, you can't really panic that much about like how much you learn. I will put my flashcards in the description for free. Just go click on them if you want to see them. Don't be intimidated by them. I know there's a lot. I always think I kind of went a bit overkill for history. I knew more than I needed to know. So yeah, that's fine. Now I said it before, but just a kind of motivation reminder is that I really believe GCSE history is often marked harsher in mocks. It seems to be like the one subject that most students just fail in their mocks. It happens all the time. When I was working in a school last year teaching, I saw that, you know, loads of people failed history, and that just doesn't happen in the real exams. It is genuinely easier than you think. The way that you would fail history is if you do not write anything, like you're missing out large sections, your structure's completely off, you're not answering the question, and you have absolutely zero knowledge, and you're not even trying to guess or use anything. That's how you fail. To not fail, you need to answer the questions, use the right structure, give it your best go, not run out of time, and use the best knowledge / guess that you can. Okay, that's what failing looks like. Okay, so then obviously, like I said, it's a scale in terms of the higher marks is the better knowledge, the better exam technique, is it all the way up. But that's what it looks like to not fail. So just be a little bit reassured by that. I will say again, timing, be careful with timing, right? You need to be on track of this. That's really important. I won't say much because I say that in every single video. And then finally, the piece of advice that I want to give is that it's really like important to think about when you're arguing a case, right? So usually this is the final questions on history papers, to think about why something is more important than another. I talked about this in my paper 2 video, but in short, if you are comparing or you're asked like, to what extent do you agree with this interpretation, or to what extent do you agree with this statement, then it's about thinking about why is this more important than that. It could be one factor could be more important than another factor because it is more far-reaching. It affects more people. It was the root cause. it was longer lasting, whatever it is. I said that all in my paper 2 video, but that's really like useful to think about because the best students will kind of say that ultimately this factor is more important than this, because even though they both had these impacts, the first factor had a longer lasting or directly affected more people. And a final piece of history advice is to use Seneca learning. If they have it for your exam board, it's really good. It doesn't take long to do topics. It's like half an hour. So pick your worst topic and maybe do Seneca on that. I personally find it really helpful to kind of get you that overview, which is really important. Right, so that's my main history advice. If you watch my paper 1 and paper 2 videos, that will still be helpful, right? I'm not just going to keep repeating everything, but now I'm going to get a bit more specific for you guys, for those doing EDEXCEL history paper 3. Firstly, if you do EDEXCEL, there are some really, really good predictions online. I'll link them in the description, but he actually got quite a few correct for paper 1 and a couple for paper 2 as well. So just have a look at them, make sure you've got them covered. Okay, so the EDEXCEL history paper isn't too bad. It will start with a 4-mark inference question. So this is literally where you're picking details from a source and then you're giving evidence from the source to back up your point, right? So you should be familiar with this, and yeah, you should absolutely be familiar with the paper. I would go through and look through a past paper if you can. So that's my advice in terms of the first question. Then you've got an explain why question. Those aren't too bad, right? That's 3 paragraphs. You want to use the cat's words. Those are explaining. Really genuinely explain why. For explaining why, that's where you think about like this caused this and this led to this, and you want to go fast. So that's why you use the cat's words. Consequently, as a result, this means that, therefore. There's lots of other easy questions as well. So there's one question where you have to kind of say like, why do the historians have different opinions? And you basically need to say that they've weighted different sources in the research, and then you match up the interpretation with a source. Like each interpretation will have a source that corresponds to the argument, if that makes sense. But like I said, you can kind of research this in your own time. What I will say is thinking about the interpretation question at the end, where you have to agree or disagree with an interpretation. It's really important you use the other interpretation as a counter argument. So you will have 2 interpretations. That is a historian who is giving an opinion. And you have to say whether you agree or disagree with that opinion. Now, the way I kind of did this, the way I structured it is, in the introduction, I would lay out the point, I'd lay out the viewpoint of the interpretation. So I'd say, interpretation 1 argues that Hitler was the most important reason for the rise in the Nazi party. And then I would just say my opinion, you know. This essay will agree with this statement, or this essay disagrees with this statement strongly. And then what I would do is I would have 2 paragraphs where I'm kind of either critiquing or like supporting what the interpretation says. So it's really important to use quotes from the interpretation just to show that you are like, you know, so historian A says that Hitler was very charismatic. This is supported by the fact that he was a really good speaker and he went on a flying tour around Germany where over 1 million people watched his speeches, blah, blah, blah. And then for your counter argument, you use the other source. However, interpretation 2 has a really good perspective when it argues this. And then you conclude, right? I hope that makes sense. Now, to help, in the description is a 51 out of 52 mark EDEXCEL paper 3 for free that you can read through. Now, I will say I typed up with AI. I did obviously write it and it was marked by my teacher, but if it looks a bit AI-y, then that's why. AI didn't write that, I did write that. So have a look at that. And that brings me on to my final point, which is Weimar Nazi Germany. So again, use the resource, right? I know some of you might be thinking like, why is it useful just to look at a high mark paper? But I think it's really important to kind of look at the high mark answers, even if you're not aiming for a 9, for example, or, you know, very high marks, then it's still helpful just to look at it. So that's really important as well in terms of Germany. Now, anyway, the main things with Germany is there's some really, really core and important events that you've got to understand, and they have really, really far-ranging impacts. The Treaty of Versailles is one of them, right? This is such a foundational, important document that really, really shaped Germany. So obviously you have the reparations, where Germany had to pay 6.6 billion in reparations, right? This really harmed the German economy, right? It indirectly led, or kind of directly led, to hyperinflation because they couldn't pay it. And then all sorts of negotiations and treaties were kind of negotiated. So you have the Dawes Plan, you have the Young Plan, where they tried to reduce the reparation payments, and basically it really constrained Germany in so many different levels. This led to a lot of anger at the Weimar Republic, and whenever there was anger at the Weimar Republic, the Nazis benefited because they portrayed themselves as the only and the most anti-Weimar Republic party. Okay, so you obviously had the Munich Putsch where they protested against it and all of that sort of stuff. So that meant that whenever the Weimar Republic weren't doing well, people turned to the Nazis or the communists, but eventually the Nazis became, they were seen as the more anti-republic, that type of thing as well. And obviously they had the Hitler factor, who was very charismatic. So basically what happens is you have crisis for the early Weimar Republic until about 1923, when they introduce a new currency. You have Gustav Stresemann, who was the chancellor. He was really good. And then you have what's called the golden years of the Weimar Republic. So that's when they seem to be doing all right. The economy is starting to do well. They're building new homes. You've got women going into universities more frequently. You have good culture going on, all of that sort of stuff, all the way up until the Great Depression. Great Depression happens in 1929, and the Weimar Republic start doing badly. So like I said, people then turn to Hitler. So in the Great Depression, you have unemployment rise, I think, to 6 million people. So people are really angry, they don't have jobs, and the Nazis come along saying, oh, we've got all of these solutions for you. Now, the Weimar Republic fails over a long period of time, from 1929 basically to 1933. They go through loads of different chancellors. Nobody can solve it, really. And then obviously you have Hitler's rise to power. So he becomes appointed chancellor. The Nazis become the biggest party in July 1932. And then what happens is Hitler, the moment he becomes chancellor, he basically does loads of things that make him a dictator. Okay, so you have obviously the Reichstag fire. Then you have the Enabling Act, which gives Hitler emergency powers. It means he can pass laws without the Reichstag. Then after the Enabling Act, you have the establishment of the Gestapo, for example, so the secret police. And then in 1934, you have the Night of Long Knives, where he kills Ernst Röhm and lots of his opponents. So that's the path to a dictator. And that's kind of the really important parts of Weimar Nazi Germany. You also need to know about Nazi policies towards women. So that's just the super quick random overview. There's loads of great overviews on YouTube, but I just really like talking about it because I think it's such an interesting topic. So if you want to strengthen Weimar Nazi Germany, then I'd have a look at my flashcards. Pick out some facts that you really like. You don't have to use all of them, but if you think, oh yeah, I really like that, I could use that, then that's really useful. So I hope you found this video helpful. It was a little bit all over the place, I know. My paper 1 and 2 videos are more structured if you're looking for just general history advice. But I did think I wanted to just say a couple of things a bit more specifically about certain topics, certain papers. So yeah, best of luck. I hope it goes well. And then let me know how you do and what sort of questions come up as well.